Okay, what about this teddy bear hammer? Sorry, I can't hear you, I'm a duck. Come on, dude, this was a weapon contest. This is a weapon. What?
Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, after years of being unable to, Josh and I have recently played through Frontier, killing nearly every monster that exists in the game. While we may not have had the same kind of experience as someone who played it actively while it was live for years, the full day-to-day experience, it is fair to say that we have a pretty good idea of how hunting felt like in Frontier, and more specifically how the weapons felt as well. The big main thing that separates them from the main series weapons are the weapon styles, which actually as a system has sort of been worked in the main series entries since in some ways. Most recently, the switch skills in Monster Hunter Rise allow you to change up an ability or two in your moveset, customizing and tailoring your experience without having to change which weapon you are holding. In a way, Frontier was the progenitor of this concept. Another time that styles as a concept were used was in Monster Hunter Generations, which is technically a spin-off, and this game even had them called weapon styles as well, simply executing the system a somewhat different way, based heavily around hunter arts. When Frontier first released, the combat was essentially standard Monster Hunter movesets, but over time an update happened that added something called styles to the game. Originally there were Earth, Heaven, and Storm styles that were added. Earth was the base moveset pretty much for most weapons, given an extra couple of bells and whistles over time. Heaven style has a few more attacks and sometimes replaces things, and then Storm style usually builds off of the same stuff as Heaven style and then adds even more. An example of a simple one being the hammer. The Earth style moveset gives you a different level 1 charge attack, a double swing that you can combo into a couple of different choices. And then the full level 3 charge attack is a super pound. In Heaven style, your moving charge attack variant turns into an endlessly repeatable wild swinging hammer combo that you can just spam until you start to miss or it becomes too dangerous to keep doing. In Storm style, you keep this unending combo as your level 2 charge attack, but you lose the super pound attack at full charge. Instead, when you hit level 3 charge, you will pulse, and then if you release it at that exact moment, you will do an extra powerful jumping super pound. But if you fail to release it at the right time, it will go back to a level 1 charge instead. The hammer was the weapon that I used the most consistently in my journey. It is quite a conceptually simple one to use to explain what is going on with these systems. Finally, extremely late in the game's life cycle, comparatively at least, extreme styles were added to the game for every weapon. Across every weapon, these let you sprint with your weapon drawn, and once again added as to the previous movesets of the weapons in crazy ways. To once again use hammer as an example, one big thing that you could do is if you stand still when you press the charge attack button, it will do an unlimited swinging combo for as long as you hold it, letting go at the maximum power special charge attack whenever you do choose to let go. On top of this, while keeping the same previous charge attack mechanics of the previous styles, you can charge while doing the extreme mode sprint, and you also gain a 4th charge level, which is now the new QuickTime event pulse where you have to release it when it flashes or go down in charge level. And if you hit this one, you do essentially a running hammer true charge slash attack. So yeah, if you go really fast from Earth style to extreme style, it can seem very, very jarring to see how just unbelievably different each weapon is to its original counterpart. I mean, Extreme Longsword basically starts being able to teleport. Great Sword gets the ability to parry multiple times as a means to charge up power and then release a super attack made of the damage that you parried in the first place. Do you get what I'm saying? The weapons all just sort of became their own unique forces of nature, each one developing really far from its main series counterpart, but in totally different ways from each other, still uniquely. On top of this, there was an awesome thing called weapon length, where the melee weapons actually had variable length that depended on which monster your specific weapon came from, resulting in some hilarious weapons on both ends of the spectrum, and hunting experiences to match, as of course the actual hitbox of your weapon is affected by the length.
No matter what you may have heard, size matters.
So the question that I really want to ask with all this information is, should the main series have more of these systems? Are they something that I would add to the current experience? Something that would be considered better than what we already have even? Should the main series be taking lessons from Frontier's weapon design, little bits and pieces, so they just rip the entire system out of the game and then put it into a main series game? Or should they just leave it in Frontier and keep the main series weapons as they are, totally separate? Well, to me, as with most things, the answer is a a very healthy mix. I love the Frontier weapons. It's hard to explain if you haven't played the game. The things that look insane from moments of footage only look insane because you are seeing the tail end of a very long stream of progression. Even in our own playthrough, even with it not being literally years of passing through these weapons slowly changing, and instead of only being a matter of weeks, months, there is still just so much that happens between first starting the game with only Earth style, getting Heaven style, getting Storm style, getting Extreme style. It feels like a natural progression over time, almost like the completion of a character arc, like a time skip in an anime where the whole crew gains a whole bunch of new powers. It just sort of fits. That said, I think there is a point to be made that the developers of Frontier weren't afraid at all to experiment to achieve their goals, and that a lot of their decisions sort of played towards the rule of cool above all else, above logic even. In the end, the gameplay of something like Extreme style weapons was just incredibly fast paced. It looked crazy. You had a million skills, so everyone had things like a full evasion boost, and Frontier's True Guts, which is just the ability to never be killed by an attack while above a certain health threshold, essentially meaning you cannot be one-shot unless the attack literally has the concept of one-shotting written into the code. As a result of this, you could, in most situations, afford to make one mistake as long as you didn't make another one until you healed. And the evasion skills and defensives that you could fit into your set allow this to feel just about fair. It was a very risk and reward type of system. It was so fast and punishing, but reasonable. This type of gameplay creates the necessity for something like Extreme style weapons to keep up with it. Teleporting longsword, sprinting while charging with a hammer, parrying greatsword, these are all really cool concepts, but they just keep building and becoming further and further from the original series weapons, rather than providing options that you choose between. Most, if not all, weapons just sort of wanted to use whichever style they unlocked most recently, as it had the best parts of the previous styles and some upgrades past that. I think that Monster Hunter definitely sees the value of customizable movesets. It has been played around with a number of times over the years by various development teams in the franchise, but the first time in an official main series title has been Monster Hunter Rise. Maybe not full-on styles, but switch skills are a very interesting place to start, especially as if we simply add more switch skills, each weapon will get more and more customization. In a perfect world, I guess in my perfect world, we can have it so that these are balanced and not just a default choice so that no one would ever not take one of them. Make it so that two hammer players could have totally two different movesets in the same hunt and still be more or less as effective as each other as long as they build towards their personal moveset. That, to me, is the dream. That would reflect realistic combat more than any other change possible. Think about it. Very rarely do two swordsmen or martial artists have exactly the same style, exactly the same form, even if you have the same techniques. A lot of that is due to the muscles and muscle memory because people are simply unique from one another. Having this reflected in Monster Hunter, that would be so cool to have one day. Switch skills are a move in that direction, and the thing that made switch skills even make sense in the first place is a whole lot of experimentation by a big old game called Monster Hunter Frontier. It's hard to say if the main series weapons are better or worse than Frontier weapons, because the whole game around the weapons changed over time to evolve alongside them. Frontier, in its end state, was just a totally different game. The entire loop, the pace, everything was about as different as you could get from the main series while still undeniably being Monster Hunter. It still feels like Monster Hunter, and it still feels really, really good. The best hunting system for me would be a mix of the two. Overall, Frontier had a lot of really awesome highs with its weapon design, but it also worked quite hard to get there. I think the weapon length just as a whole should come. I love that system entirely. I know that it adds a little bit more difficulty to balancing the game, but I think it's an awesome system. And that's sort of the thing, is whereas the main series has kept their weapon changes somewhat mundane, relatively speaking, and gotten very few complaints as a result, Frontier took these sort of leaps, and I think some of them resulted in really awesome things. There's nothing wrong with either game's weapon systems, and I honestly cannot wait to see how much further into these types of systems the main series will dive into in the future. Sunbreak will clearly expand upon the systems from Rise, and who knows what we'll see in the 6th generation Monster Hunter games as well. After that, looking long ahead into the future, it could get even crazier. I've been Cotton Dinosaur, and this has been a discussion about the differences and comparisons comparisons between the weapons and playstyles of modern main series Monster Hunter games and Monster Hunter Frontier. Do you think that the main series could benefit from more of a flashy combat style like that, or do you prefer it staying a little bit more grounded? Like if you like the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world our stage. Goodbye.